There's a particular sound a body makes when it sticks to the intake tray. It's not a scream. Screams are for the living. It's more like a slow, wet peel, flesh separating from steel under its own weight. I've burned more than 5,000 corpses down here, and that sound still pulls something in my spine. I reach for the scraper, feel the grip's familiar bite where the handle's insulation wore off a year ago. There's comfort in it. A man can survive a lot if the tools stay the same, even when the bodies don't. The one on my tray this cycle has a twitch in her left ankle. I watch it as I work, cataloguing muscle memory the way other men might count breaths in prayer. The twitch is fast, shallow, repeatable, 15-second intervals, like a reflex or a loop. They say that's just death working itself out. Nerve chatter, stored charge in dying tissue. The command manuals are clear. Unless the chest rises or the eyes track, it's inert. This one blinks. I reset the tray alignment and thumb the biometric console. The heat stack behind the bulkhead clicks once, slow, almost reluctant, then spins up with that low groan it's had since last year's turbine swap. I mouth the standard invocation as I press the feed switch. Cycle the flesh, strip the sin, return to ash, begin again. The furnace opens with a breath like boiling tar, and the body disappears. There's always a moment, just a moment, when the heat flattens everything. Sound, color, even thought. I hold my hand over the control for a beat longer than I should. Enough for the heat to scorch the hair off the back of my wrist. Enough for the scent to cling. Fat burning smells like damp fabric and copper, if you were wondering. I'm not disturbed. I'm just cataloguing. That's what I tell myself as I slide the tray back and start on the bone residue. The scraper moves in slow arcs, pulling fragments into the collection chute. Tibia splinters, one molar, half of a scapula that didn't burn clean. They'll go into the biomass hopper next cycle, ground down, fed into atmospheric protein tanks or turned into nutrient gel for Deck 31. Everyone gets recycled eventually, even the dead that blink. My name's Searle Bren. I work Furnace Bay 2, Deck 47, waste heat and biomass processing. On the manifest, I'm listed as a corpse maintainer. Real term is burner. I burn bodies. The atonement drift's been in transit for 312 years. That's what the upper decks say, anyway. Generation ship, Ark class. Launched back before Earth was ash. We're supposed to be heading toward a habitable system coded Arcturus B, but the nav logs don't show a destination. Haven't in decades. Not that anyone asks. We keep the cycle. We recite the phrases. We don't look up. That's where the command faith comes in. Our spiritual administrators, logistical engineers and moral accountants all rolled into one smiling bureaucracy. They govern everything north of Deck 30. Red sashes, clean boots, perfect teeth. Their doctrine says that if we obey long enough, the drift will deliver us. They never say where. I used to be a systems interface tech back on Deck 19. I ran optimization audits on air filtration and oxygen recovery. Found a few problems in the census math. Too many mouths, not enough names. Brought it to my shift lead. 2 days later, I was reassigned here. Disciplinary cross-training, they called it. I haven't seen my wife in 5 years. She was moved 2 decks up into food distribution. My son, Noran, was taken for behavioral remediation. That's what the faith calls re-education. He was 10. I don't talk about him, not to anyone, but I think of him every time a body smaller than it should be comes through the chute, like the next one. I glance at the intake slab and frown. Small frame, thin shoulders, 1 foot wrapped in cloth instead of the standard burial nylon. Tag says male, 22 years. The body says 14, maybe 15. No cranial scar, no cortical chip. Either a fabrication or a deliberate false entry. I hover my thumb over the console, then pause. Not out of conscience, I gave that up a while ago, but because the slab's still warm. Pre-burn temp shouldn't be this high. I check the logs. Nothing. No error. Just a thermal trace from intake. I lean in closer, careful not to break protocol, though at this point that's more habit than fear. The boy's eyelids flutter, just once, like a dreamer shifting gears. I flinch, not much, just enough to feel the shame of it. Still jumping at shadows, Mr. Bren. The voice comes from behind, smooth as melted code. I don't have to turn to know who it is. Rev Kieran, Purge Auditor, Command Faith's smiling blade. He's always polite, always early. Standard twitch reflex, I mutter, returning my gaze to the tray. Residual volt patterns. Happens all the time. Kieran steps forward, slow and deliberate. His boots click like punctuation. He's dressed in his usual, black uniform with red sleeve trim, badge glowing with internal trace light. He carries a tablet in one hand, stylus in the other. That pen has a neural filament in it. He never writes anything without capturing mood residue. Do they all twitch before you burn them? He asks. I don't answer, just press my thumb to the console. The furnace hatch yaws open with its usual reluctant exhale, drawing the body in like a sigh it's been holding too long. A bloom of heat kisses my face, and I watch the screen. The log feed stutters, a flicker, then a lag in the thermal sequence. Kieran notices, eyes trailing the display like it's trying to lie to him in real time. You've got a fault in your heat memory relay, he says casually. Or maybe something more interpretive. I nod once. Been meaning to file a repair requisition. You haven't. I mean, I've been meaning to. He smiles, just a little, then walks past me to the log console, taps the screen, reviews the last 5 entries. His brow creases, barely. Enough for me to know he's noticed something off. Enough for him to choose not to mention it. You burn what's given to you, Mr. Bren. Nothing more, nothing less. The faith handles the why. I turn to face him, leaning one hand on the rim of the intake tray. And if the why starts whispering back, he tilts his head. The smile never fades. Then perhaps it's not the dead whispering. Perhaps it's the living forgetting how to be silent. He leaves on that note, the words left behind like a warning smoothed into glass. When he's gone, I wipe down the console and seal the bone chute, but I don't clock out. Instead, I pull a maintenance panel off the far wall. Behind it is a hollow, just wide enough to slide in a drawer I rigged from salvaged parts. I open it. Inside are teeth, 13 molars, 1 jaw fragment, and a chipped ID tag with half the barcode missing from this morning's first burn. I slip the jawbone in beside the others, close the drawer, seal the panel, and then I sit for a while, just breathing, just listening. The furnaces hum behind me, low like tired lungs, and somewhere in that hum, almost too soft to hear, a word echoes from the log buffer. Where? The next corpse arrives missing a hand. Not severed, just absent. The wrists capped in clean regrowth mesh, standard medical sealant for wound trauma, still moist, which means this one didn't die far from here. I check the intake log. Tag reads F. Bensari, age 47, cause lung collapse, block 38C. There is no block 38C. There's a block 38, but that's water processing, and it doesn't feed into Furnace Bay 2. Not unless rerouted. Not unless someone altered the distribution maps manually. That kind of thing used to matter to me. Not anymore. Now, it's just another ghost with the wrong paperwork, dropped in my lap by an overworked loader bot that beeped a farewell tone as it rolled away, like it was glad to be rid of her. I squat beside the slab and study what's left. No cortical jack. No tongue either, now that I notice. Cauterized at the root. The body's cooling, but the muscles are still in partial contraction, as if she died clenching. Her eyelids twitch once, then again. And I remember the boy from yesterday. The false tag. The dreamless blink. I shut the furnace, lock it out of the cycle. That's not protocol. But neither is burning ghosts without asking why they keep coming. Instead, I set the corpse aside and swap the intake slab manually for the next load. That's when I noticed the count. 3 cycles ago, I was burning an average of 4 to 6 bodies per shift. Lately, 12, 14. One night, 18. That's beyond drift norms, even factoring lower deck skirmishes or a heat surge in the hydro tunnels. The numbers don't match the logs don't match the deaths, and the deaths don't match the bodies. The ratio doesn't hold. I pushed the thought down, hard, like I've done every day since my conscience got me reassigned. Instead, I cleaned the control panel, grease wipes, bone ash filters, strip, reseat, seal, hands moving by memory. That's when the hatch behind Furnace 3 clicks open, the back hatch, the one that's supposed to be locked at all times unless command issues a manual overflow override, or unless you live in the walls. I don't have to turn around. I can smell him before I hear him. Ozone, wet insulation, and that tang of blood grease he uses as a skin balm. Grack, I mutter. He squeezes through the shaft like a spider too big for its web, ribs folding in strange places, eyes catching the sodium glow in a flicker. Grack isn't on the ship manifest. No one's even sure if he was born legally or just grew up somewhere down in the radiation shafts of old Deck 12. The story is, his kind, what's left of them, were meant to be purged during the Gamma Leak Protocol back in the Second Era. But a few survived, or bred, or rebuilt themselves out of duct tape and trauma. He calls himself Grack. Others call him the Crawler. I call him the only son of a bitch who brings me bodies before they're dead. He crouches near the sealed furnace with a grin like a cracked light strip. Got something warm for you, Ashman, he chirps, holding up a bundle in his arms wrapped in a stained tarp. Grack. No. He doesn't stop smiling. Didn't snatch it. Didn't steal. Just found her, down in the peeling ducts, nesting in the heat cables like she thought it was a cradle, breathing shallow, skin like salt silk, no trace badge, no tag buzz, not even a base print. Like she was never here. He leans in. She ain't dead yet, but she will be. So I figured, shortcut. I stare at the bundle. The movement inside is faint. Breathing maybe, twitching maybe. Or maybe just Grack's nerves vibrating through the cloth. I can't burn live ones, Grack. You burned that twitcher yesterday. That one was tagged. Tagged don't mean dead, Ashman. You know that. They start 'em early sometimes. Cut the cord, not the breath. You seen 'em. Take it to the wet surgeons, I say. Grack shakes his head violently, like a spider shedding a memory. No, they slice for parts. Faith boys take the rest. She's better off Ash. He sets the bundle down anyway, not on the intake tray. On the floor, gently, like it might wake if jarred too hard. And then, in a sudden shift of tone, he says, "They've been coming from below, Searle. Below. I glance at him. He's crouched near the open shaft, eyes darting like he's listening to some sound behind my breathing. There is no below. Deck 50's the last. Grack snorts. That's what they write, but they scrubbed one. I know it. Deck what don't count no more. Section black. Ain't on the maps, ain't in the logs. But it moves. He taps his own skull. Heat don't rise from nowhere. It feeds. Something's feeding it. I crouch beside the sealed furnace, still radiating more warmth than it should. The scent is different. Not burning. Something else. Her jaw's humming, Grack mutters suddenly. The one you set aside. Black mark behind the molar. I could smell it in the bone. I look at him slowly. He shouldn't know about the hidden drawer, the bones, the tag I kept. But of course he does. He lives in the walls. Grack, I say carefully, why do you keep bringing me the ones that aren't supposed to be dead? He grins. Because you don't burn them too fast. You listen. He's gone before I can say more, vanishing back into the shaft like water into rusted seams. Just the smell of him lingers. That and the bundle. I don't touch it. I slide it into the isolation drawer and mark the log with a phantom code. Null cycle, admin delay. That'll buy me 20 hours before the system flags the gap. Then I go to see Vessa. Her chapel isn't a chapel, not officially. It's a service vent space she's restructured. Brackets for candles, cloths nailed into the wall like makeshift curtains, a shrine of scavenged circuit boards and welded jawbone racks. Vessa Ambrin was once part of the funeral creed, back before the faith dissolved it, back when death meant something, when bodies weren't just waste-to-flame conversions. Now she works in silence behind the vents, performing rites the command faith calls ritual deviationism. Her crime is compassion. She doesn't look up as I enter, just finishes tying a name thread onto a molar. Her fingers move like memory, slow, careful, full of intent. "You kept another one," she says quietly. I nod. "They're coming faster now, too fast for the logs." Her gaze lifts finally, dark eyes underlined with sleep she doesn't get enough of. She studies me for a beat. Spines are marked again, 3 this week, old symbols, not language, not quite, closer to command line syntax but twisted, intentional gibberish. I tell her about the missing hand, the sealed mouth, the twitching before the fire. Then I tell her about the phrase in the log buffer. "Where?" she repeats. Not a question, I say. It felt like memory, like it was remembering where it was supposed to be. She touches a small candle. The wax is black, melted from rendered fat and carbon dye. Illegal, untraceable, holy. "Something's rewriting them," she murmurs. "Not just disposal, erasure. You feel it, don't you?" She reaches behind her altar and pulls out a thread-wrapped jawbone, sets it gently in my palm. The thread's been braided with microprint, data silk etched with mourning code, used in pre-faith funerary rites to encode last words. "This one spoke before the fire," she says. "I couldn't catch all of it, but one word came clear." I turn the jawbone over. The molars are cracked, stained, but etched on the inner arch just beneath the last molar is a tiny burned-in symbol, a door, and a circle beneath it. "A hatch," I murmur. Vessa nods. "One that only opens if you bleed the right way." I slip the jawbone into my satchel. She doesn't ask where I'll take it. I don't ask if she wants it back. Some silences are sacred. I stopped saying the invocation many burns ago. Didn't feel right. I mouth it. Still, habit, reflex, but no sound comes out. The words feel like cardboard in my throat. Dry, fake. Cycle the flesh, strip the sin, return to ash, begin again. I used to believe it was just a chant, a formality, an engine lube prayer for the soul, but lately it feels more like a denial protocol, something built to jam memory in your throat until it chokes. And I've got too many memories clawing at the back of my eyes to pretend it helps. The bundle Grack left is gone. The tarp lies folded on the intake slab like someone laid it there deliberately, edges tucked in, corners neat. Not the way Grack left it, not the way I would have done it. I crouch beside it, no blood, just a faint warmth lingering on the steel, human warmth, not furnace heat. I reach out and press 2 fingers to the slab, still warm, barely, as if she'd only just left. I don't chase her, not out of apathy, just a quiet knowing, deep in the rusted part of my chest that still believes in miracles too small for doctrine to measure. Whatever she was, she found her own way through. I find myself climbing back up the inner shaft to deck 45, swallowing bile like it's ballast, and preparing for the kind of conversation that usually ends with something redacted. The faith keeps its auditing enclave just below the doctrine tier, cold room tile, brushed steel floors, a geometry of silence so precise it hurts. The walls don't buzz here, they breathe. Kieran's chamber is the only one without a numeric door plate. Just a red dot etched into the alloy beside the port. Command faith symbolism for continuity. A 0 folded into infinity. I press the entry buzzer. It doesn't chirp, doesn't click, just opens. He's waiting inside. Always is. Rev Kieran sits behind a desk made of pale polymer bone, probably carved from a reclaimed cryovault strut. The stylus in his hand glints with filament. Recording already. before I even speak. "You're early," he says. "I wanted to review my last heat log submission." "Ah." He gestures to the seat across from him. No cushion, just bare alloy. I don't sit. Kieran watches me a moment, then steeples his fingers. They're too clean. No burn scars, no nail grit. Faith hands. "You've had 7 off-manifest intakes in the past 6 cycles," he says calmly. "All with missing identity links. All with biometric irregularities, and yet you didn't file anomaly reports for any of them. Didn't see the point." "Explain." "If no one comes looking for the bodies and the system doesn't flag them, then what's the anomaly? The body, or the silence around it?" His eyes gleam, standard neural augmentation. He's recording everything, probably has been since I walked in. "I admire your pragmatism," he says after a pause. "It's a rare trait among those assigned to the heat decks. Most either calcify or melt." "Maybe I'm just pickled." His smile is faint. I can see it tighten at the corners, like he's not sure if I'm worth humor or censure. "You've kept something," he says. My heart ticks once. "Excuse me?" "You've kept something. That's what your silence means." He leans forward. "I've worked with anomaly vectors for a long time, Searle. The guilty usually panic, the innocent deflect, but you—" He taps the stylus gently on the bone desk, rhythmic like a heartbeat. "You're a rarity. You watch." He stands, walks to the back wall. There's a panel there I hadn't noticed before. Seamless. He presses a finger to the edge and it opens, revealing a data array. Archive crystal, burn slips. One of them has my old census log on it, the one that got me reassigned. "You were right, by the way," he says, "about the count. There were 312 extra entries in that audit cycle, all concentrated between Deck 33 and 42. "Why?" I ask. "Because the system needed a discrepancy," he replies. "It needed the illusion of overflow, just enough to justify reallocation quotas." "You mean population control?" "I mean course correction." I laugh. Just once. A dry bark that feels like it's been waiting years to escape. "Course to where?" He turns, looks at me like I've just asked what fire tastes like. "I don't know," he admits. Then he closes the panel and steps past me toward the door. "You're being permitted to continue your function, Searle. For now." "Permitted," I repeat. "Is that what we call survival now?" He opens the door, doesn't look back. Some truths must be burned before they infect the whole drift. Back in the bay, I go to the back panel, the one behind Furnace 4. The wall there isn't original, patched with repurposed plating. I peel it back. Behind it is the vent shaft. Cold, narrow, sharp-edged. I crawl through, not far, just enough to reach the second shaft junction. From there, I take a hard left, then a drop into a coil bay no one maps anymore. Grack's there. He's got 3 teeth in his hand, and he's muttering to himself. "Too many, too fast, not logged, no trace, no name, no bone print," he mutters. I clear my throat. He stops, looks up and grins. "You come to crawl, Ashman?" I need to see what's beneath. His grin fades. "Why?" "They're sending up ghosts, from places we're not supposed to remember. I need to know if it's real." He hesitates, fingers twitching. "I can show you," he says, "but you won't like it." "Show me anyway." He nods, fetches a device from a pouch sewn into his side. Not a pocket, literally sewn into the scarred skin beneath his ribs. He pulls out what looks like a nest of copper and bone, bound with wax wire. "Signal biter," he explains. "Blocks faith trace pings, no memory leaks." He taps the end. It clicks like a chitinous insect snapping shut. "Come on, we go down now." We crawl for what feels like hours. Through ducts that weren't built for men, past coolant pipes sweating blood-orange rust, over sensor plates that don't light up when you pass. Then we reach it. A door. No markings, just a slab of metal, slightly concave, stained with soot that smells like old tears. "Deck 51, Grack whispers. "Don't say that name. Don't think it too loud. They scrubbed it hard." He pulls a blade from his belt, pricks his own palm, smears blood across the center seam. The door opens. It retreats, like it was afraid of being touched. Beyond it is darkness and a hum. Grack doesn't enter. I don't go further, he says. Too many teeth in the walls. The air inside tastes like burnt silk. The floor is spongy, and there, lined against the wall, are bodies. Not corpses, not exactly. They stand, upright, eyes shut, mouths wired closed, tubes running from spines into wall ports. Some twitch, some mumble. One of them looks like my son. I take a step closer. The furnace logs never warned me about this. And in that moment, I understand. We were never meant to reach a planet. We were meant to forget we ever wanted one. I didn't scream when I saw him. That's the part that keeps circling back. I didn't scream, didn't lunge, didn't even curse. I just stood there in that half-lit chamber beneath the bones of the drift, watching a shape with my son's face floating between shadow and containment fog, and I did nothing. Not because I wasn't sure. I was, even after 10 years. Even after the re-education slip. The boy was taller now, thinner, head shaved, but the mouth, God, the mouth hadn't changed. The slight crook in the upper lip, the kind that looked like it was always halfway into a question. That mouth was Noran's, and he was still breathing. Tubes webbed his chest like stitched cords, black wet lines disappearing into the wall-mounted feeds, where vibrations ticked through them like distant engine tremors. His arms were limp, skin pale and slick with something viscous that steamed in the low, furnace-colored light. The bodies around him stood the same, upright in growth tanks fashioned from retrofitted stasis rigs, hooked into something organic behind the bulkhead plating. This isn't a morgue. It's not a storage bay or a decomp station or even a data vault. It's a nursery. The boy's eyes opened, just a sliver. Just long enough for me to see they were still brown, still his. Then they shut. The breath caught in my chest wouldn't move. It sat there like something fossilized. Behind me, something hissed. I turned. Another tank had begun venting steam. The occupant, an adult male, body emaciated but intact, shuddered, and the mouth split open in a slow, dry-motioned smile. I knew that face, too. Intake number 33722. I burned him 3 shifts ago, logged him as neural inert, converted to ash. And yet here he was, whole, alive, whispering. I stepped closer, heart jackhammering. No one told me about this. No one prepared me for this. His lips moved again. I pressed my ear to the glass. Don't stop the cycle, it feeds itself. My hands were shaking. I didn't realize until my nails scraped the glass. Behind me, a new voice. You weren't supposed to see this. I spun. Rev Kieran stood in the hatchway, calm as ever, the red trim on his uniform glowing soft as cinders. He approached, eyes not on me, but on the tanks. He studied Noran's tank like an archivist skimming old scripture. So this is where they go, I said. The unlogged, the wrong-tagged. You process them here. They're not processed, Kieran replied. They're curated. He stopped beside me, eyes lingering on the tubes in Noran's chest. These are not people in the traditional sense anymore. They're vessels, memory archives. The drift cannot store what it once did through code. The AI is lobotomized. Data vaults decayed. Organic memory remains our only viable medium. You're using their minds, I said, nausea beginning to bite behind my ribs. Even after death. You're feeding off them. Not after death, he corrected. Before, just before. Memory is clearest just as identity begins to dissolve. You burn the bodies. We preserve the moment before forgetting. I stepped between him and Noran. He's not a vessel, he's my son. Kieran blinked slowly. Was. Now he is something more. You should be proud. Most parents never learn where their children truly go after reassignment. Something broke behind my eyes. I lunged. My fist caught him square in the jaw. He staggered back, more from surprise than force, but I didn't stop. I slammed him against the tank, elbowed his ribs, drove my knee into his thigh. He didn't fight back, not until the syringe hissed into my neck. I hadn't seen it. Slipped from his sleeve like a serpent. Injected with precision. I collapsed, not unconscious, just softened, like all the muscles forgot their bones. Kirin crouched beside me, straightening his collar. "You've seen enough," he murmured. "But not too much. That's the balance we try to keep." He lifted something from his pocket. A red capsule. Memory shredder. Faith grade. "Take this," he offered. "You'll forget everything you saw. You'll return to your furnace. No punishment, just routine." I stared at the pill. "What if I don't?" His smile didn't reach his eyes. "Then you become part of the archive." His hand hovered. Waiting. I didn't take it. Instead, I rolled, half paralyzed, and slammed my head into the side of the tank. A high-pitched feedback whine shuddered through the floor. The tank's pressure seal fractured. A thin spray of fluid misted outward. Kirin hissed and leapt back. Then Noran stirred. A long, wet inhale, limbs twitching. Then, slowly, his eyes opened. Fully aware. Kirin's face changed. Just for a heartbeat. Fear. He lunged for the containment override, but I tackled him. Even half-limp rage does things to your body. I bit his wrist until I felt blood, drove my forehead into his face. He crumpled. I hit the release valve. Noran collapsed into my arms. His skin was slick, shivering, but his voice, weak, rasped, was real. "Dad?" Later, Grak dragged us out. I don't remember him arriving. He just appeared, as if the drift called him. "Too hot down here now, Ashman," he muttered. "You woke the bones." I didn't argue. We carried Noran back up through vents that smelled like blood and rust. By the time we reached the crawl space outside Furnace Bay 2, Vessa was waiting. She had a candle lit, black wax. The flame burned low and violet. "He remembers?" she asked. I nodded. "Then he needs a rite, now." She took him, gently, like he was a relic, a holy thing. Vessa doesn't rush when she works. Even with the boy pale and shaking under her cloth, she moves like memory stitched into flesh. Slow, careful, ceremonial. Her hands trace a pattern along his brow I don't recognize, then press 2 fingers against the center of his chest. "The ship tried to unright him," she murmurs, "but it didn't finish the story." She lights a black wax candle with a flint spark. Her rituals don't rely on convenience. The scent of the wax is bitter and cloying, like melted bone and old breath. I sit nearby on a crate that still smells of coolant rust and sterilizer pads. My arms are coated in ash. I haven't cleaned up since we crawled out of Section Black. Noran lies still, eyes open but unfocused, like someone trying to remember a word buried under layers of language. His hands twitch when the candle burns low. Vessa dips a cloth strip into the wax. It's a memory-binding thread, woven from the last legal stockpile of neural filament silk. Illegal now, of course. The Command Faith declared mourning a logistical inefficiency 3 cycles ago. But she never stopped collecting. She wraps the thread around his right wrist, tying it in silence, then she speaks. "Name the last thing you remember." His lips move, dry, cracked, but audible. "A door and a voice. What did it say?" He hesitates, then faintly, "We are not meant to arrive." Vessa closes her eyes. She knew, but hearing it from him shifts something in her face, a sorrow more ancient than this ship. I lean forward. My voice scrapes my throat. "Do you remember me?" Noran turns. His eyes sharpen just slightly. "I think you were a good man. Once. It shouldn't hurt, but it does." Vessa glances toward me. "He's not wrong, Searle." "I don't need forgiveness," I say. "Just truth." "And what will you do with it?" I stand. My knees crack. My back groans. Furnace work makes a man stiff long before age does. Feed it to the only thing left that still tells the truth when it's hot enough. I make the decision that night. Not just to stop burning bodies, but to turn the furnace into what it was always meant to be: a signal. The drift's systems are decentralized. Power is compartmentalized across decks, but backup relays run through furnace bays, legacy design from before the redactions. The backup log stream still runs analog thermal data, with low-tier audio bleed that predates modern neural filtration, which means if I rig the feed just right, I can speak through the furnace. Not to one person. To everyone who listens beneath the system's gloss: maintenance crews, ritualists, deck rats, people like Grack, who've lived so long in the ship's bones they can hear things others pretend not to. I pull every bone I've saved, 15 in total. Teeth, mandibles, a jaw fragment etched with old syntax. I rig them into a crude loop matrix using Grack's voice biter mesh, feeding the relay through the auxiliary ignition line. I know the furnace will resist. It's not built for feedback broadcast. But Furnace 2 is old, unstable, full of memory drift. It's the only one that might let me speak. I sit at the console and key open the access panel. It clicks reluctantly, like a lock held shut by superstition. The logs still show me as active, still show my shift as functional. I enter a manual override. Input name Cyril Bren, status unlogged. The system accepts it. The furnace doors ease open. The heat rolls out slow and low like breath from a dying god. I feed in the jaw matrix. One whisper at first, then two, then all of them at once. A chorus of last things, names, phrases, questions. One child asking for his mother. One woman reciting the names of her children. One whisper I don't understand. It's in a launch-era dialect, but I feel it more than hear it. Something like, "The bones remember. The fire only forgets when commanded." The relay flickers. The side panels glow. I reroute the secondary flow into the wall speaker, an old dust-choked relic from a time before internal silence was policy. It activates. "We are not fuel. We are not gone. We remember. You remember. The cycle is broken. Begin again." It echoes through the hallway, through the ducts, through the goddamn drift. I hear it catch in the crawl spaces. I hear a muffled scream from the next bay. I hear nothing from upstairs. They're listening, and they're waiting to decide what to do. Rev Kieran arrives within minutes. His uniform is singed. He looks tired, the kind of tired that no sleep cycle fixes. He walks up slowly, not with anger, not with fear. Just that hollow, deliberate pace of someone watching their doctrine fall out from under them. "You could have chosen silence," he says. I nod. "I did, for years. Look where it got us." He reaches into his coat and pulls out the same thing he always carries. A single red capsule. Memory shredder. He holds it out like an offering. "You take this, and all of this becomes background noise. You'll forget the boy, the tanks, the bones, the truth." I don't take it. I'd rather burn with the truth than live without a name. He watches me for a long moment, then he nods, in understanding. And he leaves, just like that. No guards, no detainment. He knows it's too late. The signal's gone out. The bones are speaking. They come, in time, not in crowds. The drift doesn't move like that. It leaks change slowly, through heat seams, through hairline cracks in routines, through meals eaten a little too quiet. It starts with a man from Deck 36, a food system calibrator with melted gloves and a missing index finger. He brings a child's cloth boot, still laced, says nothing, just leaves it on the lip of Furnace Bay too, and nods once before walking away. Then a pair of twins from Deck 41 show up together. They're repair line janitors, or used to be, judging by the bile-stained rags knotted to their belts. One holds a prayer slip made from tinfoil. The other, a melted ration badge. They ask if Vessa will speak a name. She does, softly, carefully, as if the name is something you can bruise. Later, a monk from the doctrine tier comes barefoot, robes torn, red sash slashed at the seam. He kneels outside the chapel, muttering in half phrases, clenching his own jaw like it wants to fall open and say too much. Vessa brings him tea made from boiled wick root. He cries into the cup and leaves a page torn from a faith hymnal with all the printed words burned away. Only the handwritten ones remain. People come, not just to grieve, but to remember out loud. That was always the crime, wasn't it? Not sadness or doubt, speech. They bring tokens, teeth, tags, bent spoons, filaments twisted into crude effigies. One woman brings a severed data cable from Deck 30's old neurotether room and says, "This held my brother's dreams before they cut them off. Can I burn it like a body?" Vessa nods. "Only if you name him first." She lights candles every night now, rows of them. Black wax, green wax, some made from melted starch soap and old ceremonial fat pressed into scavenged tins. The light is uneven, sometimes dim, sometimes sharp, but it moves. That's what matters. The chapel has no walls anymore. Not really. She removed the cloth partitions, opened the air vents wide. Now you can see it glowing from down the corridor, like a heartbeat remembered by architecture. The faith hasn't shut it down. Not yet. Grack sleeps curled behind Furnace 3, inside the old exhaust crawl where the flame filters never fully cooled. He says the walls sound happier now. He says they hum like they're singing under their breath. He dreams in pieces, sings sometimes in his sleep. One night he wakes up sobbing and says, "I heard the drift say sorry." Then he laughs so hard he chokes. I believe him, every word. And Noran, he walks now, not far, but enough. His legs are stiff from time in the tank, but he moves with that loose-limbed caution you see in someone learning how to be a person again. He eats when he's hungry, laughs when Grack tells a story that doesn't make sense to anyone else, watches Vessa burn name-thread candles like he's watching magic being invented. He doesn't remember everything, but when he wakes from bad dreams, he looks for me first, and he knows my name. He says it quiet sometimes when he thinks I'm not listening, just to test the sound of it. Dad. And that's enough. More than enough. The furnaces still run. Some things never stop. Waste becomes resource. Body becomes flame. The cycle continues. But now, every burn starts with a name. Spoken aloud, logged into cloth, whispered into ash. Not silenced, redacted, and stamped into feedstock for the machine. Remembered. There's no doctrine behind it. It just began. Like the ship had been waiting for someone to speak into the heat and give it permission. Even the old burner crews have picked it up. I heard someone on Bay 5 say a name before a manual ignition last week. Darren Keft, Deck 42, Code Blue Tech, forgive us. Then the fire. Because fire doesn't have to destroy everything. Sometimes it's what makes memory last. Sometimes you burn the dead not to erase them, but to free what the silence tried to cage. And if enough of us remember long enough, whisper the names loud enough, refuse to forget often enough, maybe the drift won't forget itself. Maybe it will become something else, a place where even the dead know they were once alive, and where the ones who burn them finally learn how to remember.